evening. So I'm Marika Uchida and I will be your host and moderator for tonight's first session of Project Pigi's Game Dev Talks. So tonight, our main topic is about how to conceptualize a game. So we have invited experienced game developers, from our local industry to share some tips and life hacks on how to properly ideate a game. Um, so, so to everyone who just joined, welcome, and we are now starting the panel discussion. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers for tonight. So, um, Mr. Eric Garay Blas, so he's a game designer and co-founder of Kuyi Mobile, Choo Choo Apps, and Popsicle Games. Miss Luna Javier, the creative director and co-founder of Altitude Games. Mr. Solon Chen, the studio manager of Ku Apps Philippines. And so without further ado, please let's give them a virtual round of applause. Yeah. Okay. Sige. So let's start the conversation. In today's time, to our audience, to everyone, to our, speakers, deciding what kind of game is an overwhelming process, and it's hard to focus on what which area to focus on. Like, are we going to focus on the creative fulfillment, or the money part? So how do you choose a game genre, etc. So this panel will have creators discuss how they initially conceptualize their successful games. So to start this discussion, our first question for tonight to our dear speakers. So how do you decide what kind of game to make? So actually, we'll start with Luna. So hi, Luna.
Hi,
so
everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This topic is very perfect for me because my job as creative director of Altitude is I'm actually the one who makes pitches for our next projects and shops them around. So how we decide what game to make, it's definitely a combination of different factors. So of course, there's what are we excited about or what is the team excited about, but there's also if we're pitching to publishers, for example, like mobile game publishers, what is that particular publisher looking for? Are they looking for something to add to their own portfolio that's similar to their other games, or are they looking for something completely new based on Altitude's experience? And so I always take the limitations into account. For me, it's actually easier to come up with game ideas if I have limitations, right? So like if a publisher says, "Oh, we love your idle game experience. Can you make another idle game for us? Whatever topic that you like." If I know it's idle games, it's easier for me to pitch rather than make any game you like, which is rare usually for a publisher to say that.
okay, thank you. How about you, Solon?
Yeah. So I think like the slightly different perspective from Luna is that of course like a lot of people would want to have a publisher to help you publish the game, but if you don't have a publisher or you are not relying on a publisher to publish your game, which is also not exactly very common nowadays. Again, okay, used to be at the early days of the mobile, but now because the mobile industry is getting more and more mature, and yeah, it's becoming harder and harder for smaller indies like to get visibility without significant amount of people who's backing uh, in terms of marketing side. And that's why like you will still choose a publisher, just like how PC game have always been like in the past. So if you choose to not to go with a publisher, you want to do it yourself. Of course, the important thing is to know like of course, number one is like which platform are you most comfortable of like making the game. Okay. I think like by default, most people are comfortable at making PC. Okay, because that's the tool that you're using to make the game anyway. So you already have everything that you needed, yeah, to make a game. If And the next most popular one tends to be on Android, Android platform, because a lot of us in the Philippines, specifically in the Philippines, we usually have Android phones, so it's easy for you to develop. So many times it's really on what you have on hand. Okay, especially as an indie, you don't have access to a lot of funds to get those tools. Like some people want to do iOS, but remember, if you want to do iOS, you better have a Mac because at the end of the day, once you complete a game, you have to export using a Mac. So there are certain limitations. Yeah. So usually, just pick whatever the resources that you have. Okay, and that's the direction that you wanted to go in terms of like where to actually make the game. But the second part, like what kind of game to actually make, it's very, very important when it comes to like what's your purpose of making that game. Yeah. Like in our company, like we do both, a mix of both, where like there are games which like we know that the intention is to really like we have to make money out of it. Yeah, and there are games where we just say we're just gonna have fun. Like we don't really care if it makes money or not, and if it does, great. Okay, and sometimes it's a mix of both. Okay, but as an indie, like you really have to choose. Like, are you going to make a living out of it? Like, if you are going to make a living out of it, then you have no choice. You have to look at whether you have to think about like when you think about a game, it needs to be something that can be monetized. Okay, and monetized can be in many many different ways. Okay, it could be through ads, through in-app purchase, or through premium. Just pay it once, then people buy it, then they don't have to pay again. Okay, regardless like which method that you choose. Okay, these are the factors that you have to think about, like the purpose of making that game. Okay, and once you have that, then of course, like sky's the limit. Like if you don't intend to make money, then just think of a genre that you feel most comfortable in making. Okay, sometimes you want some challenges for yourself, but of course, you also want to make sure you actually finish a game, right? You don't want to have a game that takes like 20 years to make. That might be a little bit too long because by the time that you release a game, it might not be relevant anymore. So think of something like that's more reasonable at your own time that can make to limit the scope. But in terms of type, it's still like which one that you want. Some people wanted to make MMO, but they didn't realize that okay, like there's so much work that they need to do and so much tech that they need to know about before they could actually make it. So knowing what are the things that you can do is important, so you can pick the fight that you can win, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's more or less like the starting point of like what kind of games like you should conceptualize. Yeah, and if you are more on the business side where you want to make it to make money, okay, then it's slightly different story. Of course, this one actually would require you to do market research, because if it's just for fun, like there's no need for market research, right? Market's about money. Right? Don't worry about it. Just have fun. But if you are going to make money, you have to do your market research. Yeah, and do market research. That means like who are your intended target? Are this market big enough for you? Right? Are there really players for this kind of game, or it's just self-feeling good lang? Okay, because you have to know that when you are asking people about, when you are not asking people about the game, you will be very objectively always saying that your game has a lot of people would play. That's how every creator is like. We all believe that everybody will play our game, and that's the reason why you're making it in the first place, right? And you think that it's gonna make money, right? You believe in it, okay? But the reality is like you are not the only customer for that game. You need to make sure that there will be players outside that's not you or your small circle of friends that would actually like that kind of games. And most of the time, that requires you to use some tools, to do some research, to know what kind of games have a lot of people playing, and then the one that you are playing, the one that you want to make, okay, the type of game that you want to make, if there is a lot of players or user base in there, and you can even look into their some of the revenue numbers. It's not going to be exact, okay, but you have a rough idea whether this type of game can become successful or not, okay, because you are doing it as a business. You are not just like gambling at your own time, right? So that's the main difference. Yeah.
Thanks, Solon. So actually, we'll dive into that later. Let's move to how about Sir Eric? So, um, you know, what's your advice on how do you decide to what kind of game to make? So where did you start in your personal experience?
Okay. I guess Luna and Solon covered almost all the bases already. So anyway, in addition to what they said,
Mm-mm.
I would say it depends on your goal. If you're simply a hobbyist and wanted to test the waters or learn game development, then you should go for a game that you enjoy playing and creating. But if you wanted to stay longer in this industry, then you should consider games that will sustain you in the long run. So when I started out, I used to make the games that I wanted to play, and eventually I would find out that no one would play it but me, just like what Solon mentioned a while ago. And sure, it would be easier to finish a project that you're passionate about, but at the end of the day, you would also need to think about being sustainable. So I guess I would approach this as think of it as like having a Venn diagram where you find the intersection between the games that you would enjoy playing and the games that you have the skills and the resources to make. And of course, the game that would generate revenue for you so that you can be sustainable for the long term.
Okay. Actually, what I noticed between the three of you, actually, so you kind of said that you have to set your own purpose, like what Luna said, that you have to set your limit. She was able to ideate some games by setting her limitations according to the publishers. So I guess I think that's the same, almost the same with Solon, like um, that you have to like uh, you have to assess what you have right now, and then who your partners are and how to make it sustainable. So basically, to like summarize, your contributions, it's more of to in order, well, you guys ideated a game or conceptualize a game by basing it on your publishers, number one, your market, and how, well, of course, your purpose. So you were able to define your purpose, and then you basically um you know when I say purpose, it's more of like, are you going to monetize or are you doing it for passion? Actually, that makes a lot of point. So yeah. Okay. So with that, the next question is: so what are the tools that you use to study the game marketplace? So actually, that I think that's related to the target market that Solon briefly mentioned. For sustainability. Of course, if you're making a game, if you're making it for if you want it to be sustainable, you have to figure out who your target market is. And I'm guessing your target market is in the marketplace of, of whatever platform that you want to, like, you want to publish it. So let's do it reverse. Let's start with Eric. Okay. So what are the tools that you can like share to everyone?
Okay, so in my case, I'm mostly focused on mobile games.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have two places that I visit every morning. I go to the iPhone App Store, check out what's in the top 10 charts. That's for in the Philippines and in the US. Then I also go to the Google Play Store, top charts, and check out what's trending, what people are playing. Then when I see a new game, I check it out. I read the reviews, the player ratings, the reviews, what people enjoyed and liked about the game. So I made it a habit to visit this every morning, and actually I collect data. I input all the top 10 games in a spreadsheet and then find the trends. From the trends alone, you can easily see which game you can go for, which game monetizes well, and which game are just dragged or has sustained power in the top charts. So yeah, that's basically it for me.
All right. So it's basically it's part of your morning routine, or your habits to like check out what's trending in the marketplace. Well, for your in your case, it's the Play Store and Play Store and Google Play.
App Store.
Yeah, App Store and the Google Play. Anyway, okay. So let's move to Luna. So what are your tools that you can share to everyone, or
Actually,
like
Eric, kinilig ako dun sa spreadsheet kasi may spreadsheet din ako. Parang na-curious ako kung ano yung template mo kasi iba yung template ko. But yeah, so I think what Eric mentioned about choosing the target country is very important. So if you were planning to study charts, the charts that you see on your phone are completely different from the charts in other countries. So I also use another site to look at US iOS in particular. And then there are certain sites that actually track the top 200 games, and then they show you the shift in terms of how fast something goes up and down. So I use um, Store Glide is really good for that. They're small lang, but they have screenshots because it's very easy to crawl the top 200. So I look at top 200 free in the US iOS. So storeglide.com, that's really good. And then the other one is Game Intel, which is new also. These are both free to use and free to sign up. And then what else do I use? And then Game Refinery is also really good. So gamerefinery.com. So you can access some market data there for free. So for example, if you're looking at things like, okay, what do idle players like? What's their demographic? What kinds of games do they like? So let's say you can look up a game and then look at what are the competitors doing. A lot of the data is behind the paywall, but I only have a free account. So even with the free account, they have really good insights on market, on player motivation. So you can group different players together, and these are the games that they're playing. So it really gives you an in-depth idea of the target market that you want. But this would not be useful if you didn't know where to look. So you have to kind of already know which country you want to be on, which platform you want to be on, what genre, ganon. But yeah, I'm all for data and spreadsheets. Natuwa ako.
Right. Yeah, cool. Okay. Okay, Solon, how about you? Do you also use a spreadsheet? Do you have a spreadsheet? Oh, you're on mute, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm back. So aside from the usual spreadsheets, usually like also from the websites and the services that Eric and Luna have mentioned. So of course, like App Store is a common because it's just on your phone. You fire up, you will see it anyway because you're gonna download something anyway, right? So you might as well check that. Yeah. Other places like other website that I usually check would be like, for example, like a phone App Annie, where we even for the free account you can check a lot of stuff. Of course, there is pay account, but it's very very expensive for Philippines. Yeah, the money that they want to charge. Yeah. So yeah, just use the free account. Okay, it's fine. Yeah. In there, like basically, of course, like you can find like different rankings from different countries, but you can also see the trend of how this particular app. So let's just say like you have an app that you really really like, right? Or game that you really really like, and you're curious how well that game performed. You can just search the search in App Annie, for example, and for the name of the game, and then you can see which different platform they are on and how they have been performing in the past. Okay, so for example, like are they like at a certain rank or going up and down or certain time? Okay, so you can see their trends. So you know like whether if you are targeting that particular genre or particular market, would it be good? And of course, you can split it by different genres, so you know like whether the one that you want to make can be like have users or not, etc. And another one that we usually check would be like on Sensor Tower. Okay, so of course just use the free account. Okay, so these are very very useful tool where you can find a lot of market intelligence. But at the end of the day, it's still up to you to do the hard work, knowing what to look at and what to look for, even though the data is already there. Okay, and just a side note, like if you're going to check, for example, like App Store or Google Play for different from different country about the ranking. Okay, if you're checking it directly, you actually need to have account from different countries. Yeah, in order for you to check the correct ranking. Yeah. But the websites like so basically like whatever is number one in US or top 10 in US is actually different from Philippines, top 10 in the Philippines. Yeah. And then whatever that they feature or they list out, it's also different. Yeah, because they actually have very specific rankings and features depending on which location that you're in. So that's why like there's just way too many countries to track. So usually it's easier to just use a website that does those tracking and aggregate, so you can easily flip through, because you don't have to create like one account for each country anymore. Okay, if that's the case, so it's easier that way. Yeah.
All right. So actually, if I could like summarize, aside from the from the tools that you guys suggested, actually you guys should share your spreadsheet. No, just kidding. But I think that's like the common denominator. So guys,
Trade secret. Joke lang.
trade secret. Yeah. So but I noticed that of course, I guess it is important that while there are a lot of tools like what Luna mentioned. She was using Store Glide, Game Intel, Game Refinery, and for Solon, he used App Annie. Yeah, App Annie and Sensor Tower. Is that correct, Solon? So actually, so I think the common denominator, with all those tools, I think you guys were basically just checking out what's trending in the world. So probably by country. So I think the reason why it's so useful, because of course, if you want to make your game sustainable, you have to find out what's making money out there.
Yeah, but I think like it's not simply about the trend. Okay, you don't have to be on the trend, because
Correct.
you don't necessarily have to be the number one in order to make money, right? You can be number 10 and you're still making money. That's enough for a lot of people, right? So it's more of knowing whether that particular genre that you want to make actually have audience, enough audience to pay you the coffee. Yeah, that's what you want to know. Yeah, it's not exactly like you want to make the game that's number one all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so I think for our last question for this panel, just to round this up, since we have like a lot of questions that, actually the questions are, raining. So our team in the backstage are having hard time ranking which questions to like entertain later. Okay, so for the last question, where do you get the inspiration for your game? When you conceptualize it. I know that you mentioned that you based it on your purpose. What's trending, but like in your personal experience as a game developer. So where do you get your inspiration to actually build your games aside from money? But I'm sure it's money. you know, let's
Hindi naman ata inspiration yung money.
Yeah, money is never an inspiration. It's just
Okay.
a means to an end.
All right. So okay, so I guess I don't know. Let's start with Solon. So what's your inspiration? Actually, this would actually help our watchers. So hopefully this will inspire them to like join the project the initiative. Okay, go Solon.
Okay. Inspiration for the game itself or for making the game? They're actually slightly different though.
Sorry.
You mean like an inspiration to make the game, or inspiration on the idea of the game?
Actually, the idea of the game.
Okay, so if it's idea of the game, I think like it's always through the personal experience. Personal experience is very, very important as a designer. You have to be very observant, okay, and willing to experience things. Yeah, so like for example, like part of a lot of experience comes from the games that you play, and a lot of things actually came from things in your life that happened in your life. Okay? And that's actually a very common topic of ideas. Like something is happening in your life or something that happened in the past, so you see it, you feel it. So that's why you are inspired to make a game about it, or to let other people know about that particular experience and story. Yeah. Sometimes it's about family, sometimes it's about love, right? Sometimes it's about the society and the political things that you have encountered. Okay, so a lot of the concept really came from the personal life experience that each person have. Yeah, so yeah, I would suggest like if you can. Well, right now it's COVID, so yeah, I know it's different, but pre-COVID or after COVID, when safe, try to expose yourself to different kind of life experience, things that you have never done before. Maybe try to do it, okay, and that will give you experience to inspire you to make different kinds of games. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Olan. Luna, how about
So
you?
very similar to Solon, I'm a game designer, so this is kind of my
Mm-hmm.
full-time job is to come up with game ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps to watch a lot of film and TV and read a lot of books and comics and just like think of your childhood. So we have had game ideas from childhood toys that we loved, childhood TV shows that we loved, like themes that you're interested in, something you get excited about. So let's say if you really like sci-fi, like you end up reading a lot of sci-fi, cyberpunk books. Then you're kind of well versed in the knowledge already. And then if you think about, so how would I make a sci-fi, cyberpunk mobile game that's casual? And now I'm already thinking, okay, I could do this, I could do that, right? You also would need to play a lot of games, and actually I would encourage you to play games that you don't like. So one of the exercises that we do for our designers is, you have to play the top 50 free game that you would never ever play, like ever. We just did this recently. And then they had to play it for 28 days straight. And it was so frustrating because like sumali ako and it's like I played Golf Clash and I hate golf. But basically we went and studied like how much currency am I earning every day. Ganyan. And we were studying the data, but what we found was because we were playing games that we would never ever play, that we were just forced to for the assignment, we actually saw them doing cool features that we never thought. I'm like, oh, this is super cool that they're doing in Golf Clash, which I never would have seen if I was as a player just only playing my favorite things. You tend to play your favorite things, right? So I would say game ideas can come from everywhere, but you need to have like you need to cast a really wide net. And that's the hardest thing that I see new game designers kind of overcome. Like when they go into a company, they're like, well, I only want to make MMOs. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not an MMO company, you know? Or it's like,
Yep.
okay, we'll make MMOs, but it's this topic which you would never be interested in. But if you're a good game designer, you can make a game out of anything, like anything you can, right? So you have to be able to be like really open and observant, like Solon said, but also cast a very wide net and just gather up all those experiences, like Solon said, but they don't have to be experiences that you personally experience. A lot of pop culture, listen to what your friends are saying, what's popular, what's trending, things like that. You
Mhm.
never know where inspiration will strike.
Thanks, Luna. And Sir Eric, what's your inspiration?
Similar to Solan and Luna, no, mine is also the daily life experiences. I
Mm-hmm.
play a lot of video games, like what Luna said. Uh, you'll have a lot of advantage by trying out games that you rarely play, especially the genres that you don't like, because it exposes you to new mechanics, new ideas. It opens up your mind. And I'm not sure if you've heard of the hyper casual games. It's recently we have a lot of hyper casual games in the mobile devices. You'll be surprised because you can see games, you can find game ideas from cutting grass, flowing water, painting your nails, picking your nose. So there's a game idea for every small life experience. And I would say it's easy to find inspiration if you just uh, be open minded and try out a lot of different things.
All right. So actually, so basically, it's play a lot of games. Like go out of your comfort zone. Find that niche. Even if you hate specific games, just go ahead and play it. Okay, gets. That makes a lot of sense, especially the personal experience and preference. Because I think tama naman eh. But ka naman why are you going to make, you will slave over a game, no? Tapos you don't even like the genre. You don't even like, the gameplay, whatever. The theme. So that makes a lot of sense. So guys, to our viewers, so make sure the game that you will make, you will actually personally play. In Squeaky Wheel, my favorite task is to test our game. to be honest. So I like testing our game. You know, during my first months in Squeaky Wheel, I would get really excited. And I would actually call one of our developers, oh, I saw a bug. And I would get super excited because I really love, the games that, Squeaky Wheel built. Anyway, so yeah. So thank you, panel speakers. Actually, so we have a lot of questions. Questions are raining, storming actually. So we were able to get at least 5 questions. So we will try to entertain. So guys, let me know if you want to answer this. This is an open conversation. Okay. So first question that was selected from Mr. Marks Haveliano. Let me know kung sino yung gustong sumagot sa inyo. So how do you know if your concept or idea for a game is promising and worth pursuing? Miss Universe. So let me know who wants to answer that question. Luna? Yeah. Do you want to answer that? I
Sila
think this
muna,
is
sila
fun.
muna. Yeah, I'm going through the other questions as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do you know? Who wants to answer this? So how do you know? How do you know if your concept or idea is promising and worth pursuing?
Okay, I think I'll take that. Okay,
Those
so
one.
the thing is like you have to know when it's just an idea, it's actually very, very hard to know since it's very abstract. It's all in your mind. So the easiest way, okay, I mean, not easy, sorry. The first step is actually write it down or draw it and draw something about it. Okay. And once you have that, the next step that you will do is make a very simple prototype. Okay. It doesn't have to look great. Okay. Just something more or less have a little bit of resemblance of what you had in mind. And once you have that, you actually get people to play it and to try it out and ask them to give you feedback. Because remember, your own feedback is not accurate because you will always say you have the best. Okay. Or sometimes it's opposite. Whatever that you do, you always say that it's the worst. Okay. So it's better to get other people's opinion to let them try out something that you have done a little bit already. Okay. And from there, you can decide whether, okay, that's worth pursuing or not. Okay. And that's, of course, you're doing it based on like your own hobby. That's just something that you wanted to do. Okay. So you would know that. Okay. But if you want to know more deeper, whether it would actually be sustainable or not, aside from that, the next thing that you're going to do is, of course, check for similar games. Okay. Check for similar games in the market and then see like how your idea differs from theirs and also how you could do better. Because, of course, if it's the same genre, there will be a lot of similarities. It's kind of like racing game, pretty much mostly similar, right? You don't deviate too much from it. So that's how you check it. Then you check for on the market for similar games and see the ranking and how they do. Yeah, and why like this game has more people. Okay, and you play those games also. Yeah, you are not just looking at it. You try to play theirs and understand. Okay, and get a feel of like how it is. And you can even ask others who play those particular games. Okay, so you can learn from it. Okay, so you will know whether it's worth pursuing or not. Your ideas.
All right. Thanks, Olan. So it's basically get external validation and make sure to compare at least your game idea. What's out there in the market. Okay. So thank you. We'll move to the next question. If you don't have any more, if you don't have anything to add, okay, we're good. Okay. So next question. Actually, this is for Luna. So from AJ Aguilar. So how can conceptualization and monetization be taught better in schools? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, AJ, for this. I wanted to answer this because I'm like a tools nerd and I used to teach game design before we had all these tools that are available now. So, back when I was teaching it, we did a lot of like ideation because it was a game design class with zero coding. So, every week we would have like group drills or exercises where people would be challenged to come up with new stuff. So, for example, I'll just give one example. We had a week where they're divided into groups. So one group would have to unbalance a game. So for example, patintero. So your group's job is to unbalance patintero. So for example, okay, instead of 5 versus 5, it's going to be 10 versus 5 on teams, right? So now it's unbalanced with the current rules that you have. And then they give it to another group and that group now has to rewrite the rules so it becomes balanced with that uh, difference. So, for example, now that there are 10 players on one team and 5 players on another, how do you make that game fair and fun? So, every week we would have like different constraints. I mentioned before, I love limitation. So, you give the class a limitation and they have to design around it. And that's much more freeing, actually, to especially to students, rather than saying you can come up with anything. And then they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know where I'll start." Eh. But then you say, "Well, if we make tic tac toe, but we make it 3D, so how would you design that?" And then suddenly you'll see people with paper and trying to figure it out, things like that. So I would really argue towards very fun constrained drills for conceptualization, and then monetization. The D28 or the day 28 exercise that we just did in altitude, I think is very, very good for monetization, because we had to track as well how much, let's say, coins and gems you would get from the mobile game every day, how many chests you opened, if you watched any ads, how many, when did you see the first limited time offer, was that different 1 week from now, 2 weeks from now, and then you kind of learn how these like mobile games actually monetize, because especially for Filipino players, so we're kind of famous for being very engaged but not paying anything, right? So we're like soft launch material for retention but not monetization, because as much as possible we're not going to pay anything, right? And that's just how we play here. But if you want to learn how to monetize your own game, you can't be like, well, I don't want to pay, 9.99 for, like, then if you don't want to pay it, how will your players want to pay it? So I would I would say that you should study, like in school if possible, like really play the long game of one game at least for 28 days straight, and studying the monetization that they do there. And then they have tools now. So there's a tool that's in beta now called Machinations. So Machinations.io. Machinations.io. So they are game systems and balancing tool for game designers, and it's free. And it's also, they're looking for universities, by the way, to like partner up with. They're British, but they're looking for like universities. But that's a great tool to show economy. That's a great tool for your students to kind of map out how are the resources moving in real time. You can like fast forward up to, let's say, 200 plays. So out of 200 times, how many chests will open and what will they drop? Instead of you having a spreadsheet and manually refreshing 200 times because it's random, this will calculate it for you in a couple of seconds. So I love Machinations, and they know this. I'm a big fan. That's why I wanted to take this number, because there are so many tools now that you can use for school. I swear it would be so much fun to teach again. Okay, I'm done.
Good stuff. Actually, I think the framework would really be useful, especially for students. I mean, actually to like add to um your answer. Actually, I'm thinking about it now. For students, I think that's a good practice to set like a good limitation and framework. So yeah. And thank you for the monetization. Internal game monetization tool. So what's the actually we'll share the tools that that Luna shared, so you guys can check it out later, just in case. So anyway, okay. So let's move to the third question. Since we're sort of running out of time. Anyway, so for the third question, we have Mr. Eric Garayblas to answer from the question of Mr. Joseph Mabeza. So, do you think focusing your game concept to target Filipino market is worth it? Philippine market
Okay.
is worth it. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. So again, I like I mentioned before, I'm mostly focused on mobile games. So I will answer this on a mobile game perspective. If by worth it you mean, I would assume you mean in terms of monetization and player base. Let's go to player base first. No, I would say that Filipinos are very supportive. Medyo they are noisy, especially in social media. So if they play a game, they like your game, they would easily share it, spread it over social media, tell their friends about it. So in short, madaling kumalat. So, and did you know na some AAA companies like Rovio, Supercell, I think they use the Philippines uh, as a market, parang a market to test their games. So before they release their games globally, Philippines is one of the countries they test the games with. And in terms of monetization, though, sadly, Filipinos love playing free games, but they don't like paying for it. So especially considering the ads also. Say if you're monetizing your games with the advertising, even the ad revenues here in Philippines are not. I would say wouldn't be able to sustain you, even if you have thousands of players. Maybe if you have millions, pwede pa, but with just a handful or hundreds and thousands of players, it won't be sustainable. But testing your game concept, definitely, you should try the local market. Because Filipinos are very vocal. They have a lot of ideas. They are very supportive, and they would, they write a lot of reviews. They would rate your game. So from that alone, you can get a lot of feedback and a lot of info on how you can improve your game further before you release it to the entire world.
Okay. So basically, if you want to, kung gusto mong mag-trending yung game mo, you launch it in the Philippines. Got it. Okay, actually, that's a pretty good life hack. Okay, so actually, let's move to the next question. Actually, I will ask the three of you. So, what is your favorite game? This question is from Mr. RJ Friginal. So, what is your favorite game, and who is your favorite game designer? So, you don't have to like explain, but uh, I'll give you 2 seconds to think of your favorite game and your favorite game designer. Okay, let's start with Luna.
Game na lang. I'm replaying Mass Effect Legendary, and it was my favorite game of all time, and now I'm remembering why. So yeah.
All right. How about you, Solon? You're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah,
It's okay.
I'm more old school. Like my favorite is still Symphony of the Night. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the reason why like I played Bloodstain. Okay, because it was from the same designer producer. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, how about you, Sir Eric?
I would say my favorite game to date is Hearthstone. I've been
Oh, okay.
playing it since the beta period. I think for about 8 years now. And I'm also a huge fan of collectible card games. I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering back then, and then
Mhm.
Hearthstone came out. It's much more comfortable to play because you can play it on the phone now, and I
Yeah.
can bring it anywhere. So I stuck with it.
All right. So Hearthstone. All right. Okay. So thank you, panelists. Actually, we'll entertain one last question. But we will make you like this is like a closing question for everyone. So So we'll start with Luna again. So the question is from Miss Christine Dragon Ball. What are the things you wished you've known when you were just starting out in conceptualizing a game? So okay, go Luna.
So this is gonna sound like awful, but it's honest, no. So when I started as a designer, I was told by one of my co-founders, na parang you're so defensive. Like every time I would have a game idea, and then of course people would ask me questions or kind of shoot it down, I would defend. Like I would get really upset, and then be like, no, and kind of not that being defensive in itself is bad, but what I've learned now as I'm older is actually when coming up with game ideas, the best ideas might not come from you. And that's the most amazing lesson that I have learned. It's very humbling. And I know I'm going to sound stupid for admitting it. But for example, like some of the games that we've done, we've had pitching sessions where anybody in the company can pitch. And like sometimes it's an artist, sometimes it's a coder. Like just because you're a game designer, it doesn't mean that you're the one who makes all the decisions. I've found that if you create a space where everybody can come up with ideas on their own, you'll come up with better ideas. It's like you're not always right. You're not the smartest in the room. You're really not. And if I had known that, I think when I was younger, I probably would have had better games come out if I weren't so possessive of my own babies.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you, Solon?
I think like to some extent it's very similar because like I keep on repeating earlier like I like one thing that I really like hope that I have learned like earlier is that I'm not the only player of the game, and I have to think about what other people the key here is when we design the game, is more about what everybody wants to play, not I myself wants to play. So there might be like certain game that I myself does not play, but it doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't want to play. Yeah. So it sounds kind of ironic, like why would you design a game that it's not really the type of game that you play? But the truth is, like when you make a game, the best thing that could have happened is everybody's playing or more people is playing, and that doesn't necessarily mean you are. Yeah, it's like, and it's very apparent. There's a lot of people who likes to play Candy Crush, but I'm sure a lot of people in the audience doesn't play Candy Crush. Yeah, but they know a lot of people do, other people do, and same thing, like a lot of people knows like Clash of Clans is big and a lot of people play it, but you will also know that there will be people who doesn't play Clash of Clans. Okay, but they heard about it, but then it's not their cup of tea. Okay, but just because it's something that's not your cup of tea, it doesn't mean like it doesn't mean it's something that you cannot make, right? So like when you conceptualize, you have to consider all the possibilities. Yeah, especially what other people would think about it. Okay, I think you are muted.
Sorry. How about you, Eric? Actually, you're also on mute. Sorry.
Okay.
Live stream problems. Go.
Similar to what Solon mentioned a while ago, no? I wish I had known the business side of games when I was starting out, no, because I can remember the many times I've considered quitting the industry because of a failed game, which I've worked on for 6 to 8 months, 10 months, only to find out that no one would play it, and it would give me zero revenue. So, in short, it would not make me sustainable. So we're lucky now that we have all these research tools. The tools that Luna mentioned a while ago. You can do your market research as early as, you know, idea pa lang yung nasa isip mo. You can do your research na. And you also be surprised no, na every idea that you think about, you have to do your research first because halos lahat ng games parang nagawa na eh.
Yeah.
Especially in mobile. So you have to do your research all the time, and of course, yeah, think of how you can monetize the game also. If you, especially if you want to stay longer in the industry, and you don't want your first game to be your last.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Actually, thank you to our panel speakers tonight. Actually, all your insights are very useful. Actually, I've learned a lot, from this from this conversation alone. So, actually, to our audience, actually, we are currently recording all your questions. So we will try our best to like answer this. We will probably post it in a blog or something. We will definitely share it. So please follow us in the fan page account. In our, the Project Pigi fan page account. Okay, so actually, thank you again, panel speakers, for being here. Actually, one last request. So, what's your like advice to our aspiring game developers, indie game developers? Okay, Luna again. I'll start with you. So your last advice, before we wrap this up. Okay.
This is the same piece of advice I tell everybody, but the best way to learn how to make a game is to make it. Like just make it, whatever it is, even if it's bad, just make it. And you won't get any better until you have like a bunch of games that you've made and tried and failed. Like Eric, I feel you, Eric. But yeah, just make your games as many as you can. You will get better with time. That's it.
How about you, Solon?
I guess it's be prepared when things don't turn out the way that you expected, because it's kinda expected in this industry. Like especially a lot of things that you make, you are gonna expect them to not work. Okay, so don't be surprised if ever that happens. Just treat it as that it's something normal. Okay, and you are looking for that unicorn. Okay, it's kind of like Edison, right? When invented a light bulb, right? He needs to go through a lot, right, of trial and error to get to the right one, right? So it's the same thing in this industry. Like it takes a lot of trial and error, right? And sometimes a little bit of luck. Okay, if you're lucky, then you get it earlier, right, than the others. But the fact remains that you have to keep on doing and keep on trying. Okay, and in order to do that, you need to able to somehow sustain yourself. Okay, and another one would be like um, you have to really like make games. Just keep on, like, no matter it's good or bad, just keep on making it. It's because if you don't have a game out, then you don't have a game, and if you don't have a game out, you don't have any chance of getting any money to sustain yourself at all, right?
Okay.
So having something out there always give you chance than nothing out there.
Wow. Good one. All right. Thanks, Olan. How about you, Sir Eric, for our last advice to our audience?
I agree. I agree with both what Luna and Solon said. Just take the first step. Create those games that you have in mind. Fail fast. Even if you fail, you will learn something out of it. And yeah, I guess that's it.
All
Fail
right.
fast.
Thank you, guys. All right. Thank you, guys. So actually, let's give them our digital applause. Okay, so thank you. You guys are awesome tonight. So actually, we'll do the closing now. So guys, we highly encourage you to please join the Project Pigi program. So actually, visit our website projectpigi.com. The deadline for submission is until January 2022. So you still have a lot of time to do your to register and apply. Everything is in the website, the process, the benefits, etc. Okay, so actually, we would like to actually thank our sponsor for tonight. So this game dev talk is actually powered by OP Games. So basically they're the they're the they're the company that turns games into investable assets. So please visit their website at opgames.org. So we're actually flashing their logo tonight. So visit their website opgames.org. So yeah, actually thank you speakers. So actually this is we're already done. Thank you to the Project PG team. They're currently in the backstage managing this. That's it. So please follow and like us on Facebook and visit our website. Thank you guys and good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice